Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama. And yes, you did read that title right. This is a retraction to one of our earlier podcasts.
Yes, this time around we're covering the live-action Fullmetal Alchemist movie again. But this time, after seeing the Brotherhood series, we watched it again, and we can firmly agree and ask, what the hell were we thinking?
What movie were we watching? Now, full disclosure, we had not watched either the 2003 or the 2010 versions of the series before watching the movie. So I'd like to first give you the three important things you must remember before watching Fullmetal Alchemist the movie. 1, don't watch it before watching the 2003 series.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, don't watch it before watching the 2010 series. Mm-hmm. And number 3, just don't watch this movie.
Now we have seen people say, "Oh, it's actually really good," but when they say that, they just say, "Oh, it sticks to the source, to the original," and then people, yes, and then people who review it, who are hardcore fans of the manga and the anime, they say, "What were you watching? They didn't do almost anything right."
We're so sorry that we told you this movie was so good the first time because we hadn't watched either series. So that has been a real big learning lesson from us. If you haven't watched the original material the movie's coming from, don't watch the movie.
Right.
That's the most important thing to remember.
And we were very excited at first to watch the movie again. The first time we watched it, we thought it was awesome. We watched the Brotherhood series. We loved it. So we said, okay, we can watch the live-action movie again to see, what they did, adapt and adapt now. Now, we do remember some things that happened. Like, okay, they kept that. Then we watched the movie. Within 5 minutes, we were seeing everything wrong already.
And I was like,
wait a minute. Yeah, like them taking out the mom within 2 minutes of the movie starting. You don't get a backstory or them spending time. She just drops dead right when the movie starts, and you don't get any time to get to know them. The kids don't even have a reaction to it.
And having been educated by watching Brotherhood, I could barely stand finishing this movie. I wanted to finish, and I kept going. I can't watch all of this in one day. So I insisted we break it up over the course of 3 days. I'm not kidding, because after so much, I just couldn't take it.
Plus, the movie is over 2 hours long, so I can understand not be able to sit down and watch it in one sitting anyway.
So first, let's give you the good things about this movie. The good things are there's a manga
you can read,
yes,
if you can't stand this movie anymore.
Number 2, we have Dean Fujioka, who sang the song Making History for the series
Yuri on Ice.
Yes, that was great to see him in the movie.
Yes, he was playing Roy Mustang.
Yes, and we saw him. So it was great to see him, and I would love to have heard him sing rather than play Roy Mustang. But
if the character started singing, then you're like, okay,
I would have been happy. I would have been, hey, he's making history. I would have been all right with that.
Why are you singing?
The third thing is they did make a great effort to have the scenery and the outfits and designs look like the actual manga and animated series. That was great.
Yes.
There's nothing we have to say about that. The different towns looked alike. The uniforms that the government wore looked just like in the series.
Yeah.
The armor, Al's armor was spot on.
Yes,
absolutely
they
perfect.
did get that right. The only downside is that due to
all
their
the good stuff.
Yeah.
So it was great. It was spot on, and they did have a few major characters that were still in it, like Edward and Al.
Yeah, and they added in Winry and some, and they did have Hughes in here, who was the best version of a character they had in here.
He was the best representation of the animated character, hands down. Not only his performance, also the look of the character and the character. Exactly, he was perfect. So that he was the most perfect character in the movie, and he wasn't even Ed or Al. He was the most perfect representation of the character from the animated series, whether it was Brotherhood or the original 2003.
Right.
Another couple good things are they had some great action sequences. They did keep the action in it, which was good. And the music was really good. The soundtrack was really good. And the last thing is, it ended.
And then it's joined by a Marvel-style post-credit scene in which there's a plan for a sequel. So then we get to see the further interpretations of this that they can manage to botch.
Now, let's get to the things that made it not. I just.
Everything else that made it suck?
First thing is, if you're gonna market a movie to Americans, the first thing is when you have the credit scenes, have English so we know whom the people were. Even if they were Japanese, it's a great thing if you're marketing a movie to people who speak English to have the credits also appear in English after the Japanese.
Yeah.
So unless you were fluent in reading Japanese, we couldn't understand any of the credits, which really was a bummer because it would have been nice without having to go onto Wikipedia and look everything up to know whom these people were, to know the music, the names of the different pieces that were played.
Right.
That would have been nice to know all of that. All we understood was Sony.
Yeah, we get to see that.
That's the first thing. If you're gonna do it, put the English in after the Japanese for your English-speaking audience.
Right. And we also got to mention one more thing, that for the English dub of this movie, they had 3 of the original Fullmetal voice actors.
Yes, that was the best part.
They had Vic, what's his last name again?
Vic McNaughton.
Yeah, as Edward, but doing the English dub, so it was still him.
Yes.
Yeah, Aaron Desmook, who was Alphonse, but it was hard to tell it was him unless you're a big fan of the show and recognize that's the original Alphonse.
He's
just older. He just sounds older now.
That was very cool.
And then Catelyn Glass, who was the original Winry, reprised her role playing the live action.
So that was great. And you had these people who you just loved doing the characters. The problem was they didn't utilize them. How can you have Vic, who I call Edward now, and he's forever Edward. That's all I call him now is Edward. Have him in this movie doing the English dub, and you don't allow him to say, "You idiot," or "You bastard," or do any of the things that make the character the character.
Yes.
He was calm the entire time. And I was like,
something's wrong.
This isn't Edward.
Yes,
and who is this?
And that seemed to piss a lot of people off. They were really mad that he was not able, because they called him short or tiny once, and he said, "Who you calling tiny?" And then that was the most he did. And then people said, "What the heck was that? Where's him blowing up and going off and getting pissed and his fangs and stuff because you called him short?" Yes. Instead, he just brushes it off like, that's not what we want to see. And people were really upset over that. Where's the emotion?
Exactly. So the things that made the character, the characteristics, the behavior, the attitude. I mean, this guy was confident and self-assured. And here he wasn't. He cried all the time. Or he looked sad all the time. And then you took the iconic cape and put studs all over it. I'm like, what's that on it? And then the jacket itself, it had some lapels that didn't appear on the jacket in either the 2003 or 2010 version or the manga. And
I tried to explain, I think the studs
I understood the point. But they could have either covered up the studs, or they had one version that he wore the majority of the time, and then the studded one when he had to tear off a sleeve or something.
Right.
But just seeing those studs in there constantly was irritating because you knew this wasn't
they
how
just stapled it together. That's what it looked
like.
like.
It wasn't how it looked.
And then you had
the perfect armor that couldn't be moved.
Right, because there was a Netflix budget, meaning there was only so many things they could use the CGI effects for. The director wanted to do stuff like in the Avengers movie in Hollywood, because Hollywood is coming, and Al couldn't move most of the movie. He either sat there, stood there. He only had 1 to 2 scenes where he moved or fought. Most of the time he was standing still, sitting down, or he couldn't interact with Ed because he moved way too much in the anime. So to save money, he just wasn't in the movie that much, or he didn't talk to Ed that much. And the excuse was, oh, it's too dangerous, or they make him do this, or they make him do that. There's really no solidified explanation. It's just so they don't have to animate him that much on the screen. And Winry replaces him as the
There was no Winry there. There was somebody who they called Winry, but she in no way was resembled Winry. I mean, they had the guy who played Edward's hair blonde. Why couldn't Winwy's hair be blonde?
Yeah, and that was even a whole article about this. They said, why did you change the costume and stuff? I guess they didn't want to spend the money on the prop or something.
So she was unrecognizable as whom the character was supposed to be, except for when she hit him in the head with the wrench.
Then that was Al. They only got to do it one, like, we were missing, like, couldn't you just use a CGI wrench where she checks on it, she throws it, pretends she hit him in the Edward in the head, and he's gone unconscious or something. Instead, they have her yell, Edward! And he looks goofy, going, ah! They were trying to be as goofy as the anime when they get the exaggerated expressions, but they could not do it. It ends up coming off as really wonky. So, and she doesn't get pissed when his automail's messed up. She's like, why did you do this? He's just calm and like again, no reaction from Edward. Apparently nothing phases him in this movie.
Mm-hmm. And now, again, that was just so unlike the character in either version.
Right. And then you had the events. They took most of the iconic events from Brotherhood.
And most of the iconic characters were also missing.
Right. Right. There was no Scar, no Strong Arm, no Prince Ling, no May. They instead had Shao Tucker, who no one could stand, have him be the main antagonist for no reason, and then have a minor character from the manga and the anime be the big reveal bad guy when the homunculus weren't even enough, I guess. And when the motives for it made no sense, and then they chopped up together a bunch of the moments that were popular and linked them together as one, even though none of the events that led up to it made any sense. It was just a way to put them all together and then kill off Dr. Marco, which made no sense because he makes it throughout the entire series.
And the non-existence of Scar made no sense because that character was pivotal in both the 2003 and 2010. His role and his people, the Ishvalans, were pivotal to the story. Right. How do you take out the pivoting point?
Right. It didn't make it made no sense at all.
The pivoting point. The pivotal point. How do you take it out?
It's pitiful. And then they take out, it looks like most of it's found in 2003, which went for its own story. There were so many elements that were like the 2003 one.
That's true.
Which would be fine for some people since they did enjoy it, but it doesn't make sense because you're supposed to be following Brotherhood, which follows the manga. How can you follow the manga and then you're following 2003? Which one are you going to do?
Incidentally, we will be doing a podcast for the 2003 and the 2010 versions later, so stay tuned.
Right.
And we could definitely see elements that were taken for both. I think they should have stuck to all of one or all of the other for one thing, not jumping because they were two different animals. Right. And they were actually just two different series.
Right.
Completely.
And the two, I think probably the worst things would be two things were, one is that they had the fight between Ed and Al, which did happen because there was a point where Al thought he was a fake, he wasn't really human, but at least for the original 2003, they kind of stretched it out longer than they should have. Brotherhood had it for an episode or less, and then they were done with it. This movie decided to just throw it in so we have something to have a rift between them, and then they started beating each other up.
It was reminiscent of Batman versus Superman.
Ed
the scene where Batman and Superman were trying to kill each other. That's what this is reminiscent of. And Al just lays there and goes, brother, use your other hand.
Like, what?
You'll hurt it.
Like, wait a minute. Wait, do you want him to keep punching you? Because that's all he was doing. He was beating him till his hand was bloody. It's like, then he switched hands. And then beat him again. Like, okay, he wouldn't do that to him ever in either version. You had points where he was crying because he thought he lost him forever. But you allowed him to beat the daylights out of him, which does nothing because he's in a suit of armor.
Yeah, so these were just things that you couldn't see happening, period. And what I really hope is that there is a reboot or another remake of the same Fullmetal Alchemist movie, not a sequel. Just redo the first one, get the elements right, get the actors right, get the personalities and things right. Now, that being said, I'm sure the cast and crew enjoyed doing this movie. They had fun and they did their very best in their performances.
Yeah.
But the one thing that was kind of odd is that in the manga, you have characters that you fully know are Japanese, like Roy Mustang, even though their names aren't. But the majority of the characters are westernized. And it was kind of odd to see all of the actors be Japanese and not one westernized character. There could have been a blend where there was part Japanese characters and part westernized, or just westernized and kept it to the manga or the series and had the characters that were Japanese be Japanese. But for some reason, they chose to have an all Japanese cast. And I know that whomever's creating the movie has the right to do it the way they see it. Fully understandable, but it was just kind of odd seeing that you've watched the series with westernized characters and some Japanese characters. So it'd be interesting to see them redo it and maybe do a mixture of both. But at least have the main characters, Edward and Al, be physically as they appear in the manga or the series so that they're recognizable.
And to conclude this is pretty much the Japanese equivalent of Shyamalan's The Last Airbender movie. You think you're appealing to fans by just having certain events be there, but by changing everything else and what made the shows iconic, you failed. And it's no fault of the actors, and from what we understand, you know, it's a J-pop star, some models, and some people who really are popular and well-loved in Japan. And again, that was great. It's just that we wanted some of the characters to be recognizable from what we watch in the manga. But again, this is no fault of the actors themselves. The producers and the casting could have just fleshed it out where it looked more like the manga or the show, and not unrecognizable where this was like a movie on its own. Because people who were big fans of it immediately knew like everything went on, scene by scene, line for line. And we knew it wasn't going to be perfect. It didn't have to be perfect. Just enough where it's like a good adaptation, and it does it justice by doing the best they can live action. Not just throwing in a bunch of stuff and changing everything around and thinking that's going to please people into watching the movie. So the best takeaways for this is producers, directors, financiers, and so forth make a version that sticks to the manga or sticks to the 2003 show, but not that wavers in between or it goes off on its own. And for you, those of you who want to watch this movie, we have warned you, be truly forewarned. It is unrecognizable as either of these shows or the manga. Watch at your own peril. You do it at your own risk. And if you have seen this movie, or if you have read the manga, or if you have seen either version of the shows that aired, let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you think we're being too critical? If you do, then you can listen to the first podcast before we do what it was about. What's a more positive one. It. But we just really had to make this podcast. And again, we will not ever give a review on a live action movie without having watched the original content that it's from. That was the first time we've done it, and that'll be the last. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Oscar Entertainment. And I'm Mom Entertainments. Have a toontastic day. Peace. And to those of you who we thought that, you know, how could you say you didn't like this movie? We understand. We totally and fully understand now. Yes. Sorry. So sorry. Bad llama. Bad llama.
And reporters sitting flashing lights. Trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. With her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket. Give it to you later on in the form of a locket.